You're speaking now, you're being videotaped.
Not every day we have Rosh Yeshiva. Okay. No, wait, Rosh Yeshiva.
We want to have a couple. We should have a fight. This is the fight.
I didn't say anything. Paparazzi.
We'll go stay with Sukkot, this week's parsha. We got to look for Yom HaLema, who's going to Hashem Li, the taste in the Mitzrayim, that we have a team to, an obligation to tell over to our children that all these mitzvahs, Matzah, Gada, Pesach, is all because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim, because of those mitzvahs. In the Haggadah it says, Ba'avor that Chayiv Adam Liros is Asmo Kilu Yotzim Mitzrayim. A person has a personal obligation to see himself as he himself went out of Mitzrayim. And that's an obligation a person has to have. It happened to him personally. Why is it in the mitzvah of Igad to Levincha? That seems to be what we call a bezunder, a separate mitzvah. That not only did it happen to my forefathers, did it happen to generations before, but it happened to me as well. It has nothing to do with what I'm telling over my children. So I think, understanding as far as the Chafetz Chaim, when he was elderly, when he went to the mikveh one time, on Erev Shabbos, he asked, what we call the lava, he asked the attendant, whose name was Rabbi Yehuda, he asked if the mikveh was hot. And the attendant said, sure, it's very hot, just put in hot water. On that, the Chafetz Chaim went into the mikveh, and the mikveh was cool, it was not hot. And that's the worst thing you could do to an elderly yid, is going into a cold mikveh. And the Chafetz Chaim questioned him and said, what did you do to us? What did you tell me? You said it was hot. And the person said it was hot. I took water right off the fire, put it into the vat, it went into the vat, it seeped down. Ultimately, when you came in, I put it into the mikveh water. But it was boiling hot water when I put it into the vat. It was just a few minutes earlier. So Chafetz Chaim said you have to review Hilchos Shabbos. There's something called a Kli Rishon, or let's say a Kli that's on the fire, ala Eish. Then there's, let's skip Kli Sheni, but there's surely a Kli Shlishi. A Kli Rishon, we say if you put anything into a Kli Rishon, you put the Kli Rishon into the thing, so it's going to cook it. And you're chayiv for bishul and cooking on Shabbos. But on a Kli Shlishi, there's no bishul on a Kli Shlishi. It might be just as hot. You might think it's just as hot, but there's no bishul on that, there's no cooking on that, there's no bishul on that. And the reason is because there are two different dimensions what's occurring. In a Kli Rishon, it's still boiling. The concept of it is heating what it touches. But a Kli Shlishi, the water or anything that's in it is cooling off the hot water. So it's in the process of cooling off. One's in the process of boiling, one's in the process of cooling off, even if it's just as hot. So you put it into a Kli Shlishi, and put it into a Kli Shlishi, so it's the process of cooling off. So of course it doesn't cook that water, it doesn't keep it hot, and therefore it's cold water. That's what the Chafetz Chaim said. So you have to review. The Chafetz Chaim then said to somebody, and that is called the Chinuch Habanim. That's what we talk about, training our children or training ourselves. A person, in order to give over the energy, the passion, the enjoyment of Torah, he has to be a Kli Rishon. When he's a Kli Rishon, he can affect his children, he can affect other people. But if he's a Kli Sheni or Kli Shlishi, then he can't have an effect on anybody else. And if anything else, the other side will have an effect on him. And it all depends where you're coming from. And I think that's the reason that we say, V'gad levincha b'yom hu leimu b'avazah Hashem li b'tzeis Mitzrayim. In the chinuch of our children, we always have to be the Kli Rishon. Not just our children, but to anybody. If you want to have an influence, persuade anybody, you want to be mashpia on anybody, you have to be the Kli, you have to be the vessel that's on the fire. But if you're already Kli Sheni or Kli Shlishi, so then you're not going to have the effect on somebody else. The point of the Haggadah is to teach our children and ourselves the Ikrei Emunah. So we have to be the Kli Rishon. So we say, Ba'avazah Hashem li b'tzeis Mitzrayim, and then our children get affected. Ultimately, his goal is from a Kli Sheni or Kli Shlishi to become the Kli Rishon. And that's what yeshivas are, that's what the chinuch is, and that's what we all do for our children, to become from the Kli Sheni to that Kli Rishon. I'll finish off, once you put me on over here, I'm continuing. in the Birchas HaTorah, the bracha of Torah, it's fascinating. We say, "Va'arevna Hashem Elokeinu es divrei soroscha b'finu," that you should make Torah sweet in our mouths. L'fi amcha beis Yisrael. We do not mention our children at all. It's fascinating. With the next part, "V'niya nachnu v'tzatzeinu," there we mention our offspring. Tzatzeinu lashon say, going out. It means our offsprings. It says, "Say amcha beis Yisrael," and they're talking about the children of all of Klal Yisrael. What will happen? Anachnu kulanu yodei shemecha v'lomdei sosecha l'shma. All of us should be, without exception, should be yodei shemecha, to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and lomdei sosecha l'shma. We should learn Torah l'shma, which is there. You mention our children. Why don't you mention the children beforehand? And the answer is, the question is a mistake, really, because the answer is the niyyah is not a separate request. It's what we call subsequently. It's what we call memela. If Torah is sweet in our mouths, so then ultimately what will happen is our children will be affected by that. When you're the Kli Rishon and you enjoy the Torah, and it's sweet in our mouths, so ultimately our children get affected by that. Then it's v'niya nachnu v'tzatzeinu. Then we can talk about the children. But the point is not focusing on the children, that they should enjoy the learning, or pressure them on their Torah Lishma, or pressure them on the Yodei Shemecha. It's a self-pressure. The person has to feel the pressure upon himself that he's to understand the Torah, to appreciate it, to be a Kli Rishon. When you're a Kli Rishon, ultimately our children become Kli Sheni, and then ultimately they become a Kli Rishon. And that's what we talk about all the time. How do you know if a person's a Kli Rishon or not a Kli Rishon? So David Melch says, "Ma hafti sorasecha kol hayom yisichasi." When you appreciate, when you enjoy your learning, when you enjoy the Torah, so then it's kol hayom yisichasi. It becomes your mundane talk. Sicha means even the chitter chatter. It means your mundane talk. When a person is excited about something, he talks about it all the time, and people feel his excitement. We'll finish off with just a mashal. Everyone knows that if they had a great story or a great joke, they don't mind saying it over one time, 2 times. They can say it over 100 times. It gets better with age. It just gets better and better. But a person can't listen to somebody else's story or humor more than once. It gets worse with age. It depends, because if the story occurred to you and it's your story, then you can repeat it and enjoy it. If it's somebody else's story, you get one chance for it. And that's what it means. When it's your story, it becomes exciting. When it's exciting by you, ultimately the children will appreciate it. And that's the Ma'hafti Sorasecha Kol Yom Yisichasi. And that's, I think, the pshat in that pasuk.
Go ahead.